Need your daily fix on mixed martial arts?
We're going to kind of recap Bellator 155.
From UFC 198.
Who's who?
Kind of a controversial decision.
And who's not?
I couldn't figure out why, and then it hit me.
Well, don't you fret, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your daily dose of MMA podcasts. Everything from the UFC, Bellator Fighting Championship, Extreme Cage Fighting, Invicta Fighting Championships, and so much more. Join us as we talk about some of the biggest names in mixed martial arts. We've got you covered here on Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC MMA podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Arnel de Leon, and as usual, I hope you are doing well for yourself. You, your friends, your family, whether you live in the States or internationally, I hope you're doing well for yourself during a time of major uncertainty. Get healthy, be safe, and things are getting increasingly a lot more dark here in the States. I talked about this last week, that some states were planning to reopen up. Actually, on 4th of July, things were meant to reopen up for all states. So, for those who don't live in specifically Southern California, more on 4th of July than any other, year, more than any other year, a lot of people were throwing out fireworks. Insane. I think it was on ABC 7 or on Channel 7 News. That there was a helicopter that was flying around and it was filming all the fireworks that are going around. And there are fireworks everywhere. You couldn't even drive half a mile without boom, 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 boom. A lot of fireworks hitting in random locations. Behind your McDonald's store, behind that weird ghetto-looking, hall backyard over there, behind that weird random stranger's house, behind your house. There was fireworks popping up left and right, no matter, wherever you looked at. And it was so strange. And on the Channel 7 News, it was showing all these different neighborhoods, all these cul-de-sacs, and you're seeing all these sparks fly up in the air. It was definitely a wonder to see. What's upsetting though is that I live with somebody who is old and elderly. Actually, my neighborhood, my cul-de-sac, is comprised of mostly elders who are about over 6 years old, 57, 60 years old, 70 years old. And so, the following day, right after 4th of July, I would be, jogging down, the cul-de-sac, and then some, lady would come up to me, oh, wow, wasn't it awful yesterday with all the fireworks going on? Yikes, I've been living here for 20 years, and there's a bunch of fireworks happening here. Why? This is awful, this is terrible. And, to me, it was pretty astounding, actually. It was a really strange occurrence. I've never, in all my 4th of Julys living here on planet Earth, I've never endured something like that, where it wasn't just one location. Because usually it's a group of people that come together and they watch fireworks. Every single year I go to Disneyland, and I go to Disneyland or I go to Long Beach and someone goes with fireworks up in the air, and that's the only fireworks you see. But for this recent 4th of July, not just one location, but almost every location had fireworks, and it was astounding, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was a real spectacle. It really was. So while 4th of July was, good for some people, others, it was kind of bad, and it was kind of, And one person whose things are not going well for him right now would be Gilbert Burns. For those of you who are unaware, Gilbert Burns has been diagnosed with COVID, and because of that, he won't be able to compete at Fight Island against Kumaru Usman. So, it's a good thing that the UFC was able to go and test out all their fighters and was able to spot the person with COVID in order to avoid, mass disaster. So good on them. They're testing people out, and they are double taking it. They're prioritizing. They're making sure all their fighters are safe. They're making sure everything's safe for the fighters, and they're making sure all the fighters are perfectly healthy, and they're not going to infect other people. So good job on the UFC for following protocol and making sure on testing out all their fighters. The bad news, though, is that, Gilbert Burns, who I said 2020 was the year of Gilbert Burns. It was. I thought if Gilbert Burns were to defeat Kumaru Usman at Fight Island, 2020 would be a star-making performance for Gilbert Burns. And now, Gilbert Burns, he's taking a backseat here. He's taking the backseat because it's now being reported that Jorge Masvidal is going to go and fight against Kumaru Usman at Fight Island this upcoming Saturday. Which is something nobody expected. Nobody, because in the past couple months, actually in all of 2020, Jorge Masvidal has been going back to back, and he's in odds right now with the UFC bookers, with the matchmakers, with the person running all the contracts disputes. It just Jorge Masvidal and John Jones have been going at it on Twitter, talking about how a fighter should be paid a lot more, talking about changing their fight pay. We got ex-fighters like Brendan Schaub, Chael Sonnen, Daniel Cormier, Helwani, Michelle Watterson. We have all these fighters and ex-fighters constantly talking about money being a huge issue as it pertains to the UFC. So it was really surprising for Jorge Masvidal to be called up. Now I'm going into how this situation happened, for how Jorge Masvidal agreed to fight against against Kumaru Usman. But this is being reported in by ESPN that Gilbert Burns says he feels good after COVID-19 diagnosis. This is written in by Brett Okamoto. Gilbert Burns was supposed to challenge Kumaru Usman for the Welterweight Championship at UFC 251 on Saturday. Now he'll be rooting for his former teammate instead. Gilbert Burns, who is 19-3, confirmed to ESPN on Monday that he was removed from the 170-pound title against Kumaru Usman after testing positive for COVID-19 on Friday. Burns says he was tested in his home state of Florida on June 29 and came back negative. He flew to Las Vegas on Thursday and was scheduled to fight against Fight Island. He was scheduled to compete on Fight Island in Yas Island in Abu Dhabi on Friday, but was informed of his positive test that morning. The UFC has replaced Gilbert Burns with Jorge Masvidal, who is 35-13, in the UFC 251 main event. Burns, who trained with Usman from 2012 to 2020, said he is hopeful Usman will win. First of all, I kind of like this guy, Burns said, he told to ESPN. And if Masvidal wins the welterweight title, it's going to get crazy. It's going to be a circus in that division. He's going to fight Conor McGregor or Nate Diaz. I don't think the division is going to run correctly. The number one, number two guys fighting for the title, he's going to make it a mess. So that's another reason why I want Kumaru Usman to win. Burns, who is 33, said the only symptom he was felt all week is a consistent headache. Two of Burns' coaches were also tested for COVID-19. His younger brother, 32-year-old UFC lightweight Herbert Burns, tested negative, despite traveling to Las Vegas with the other three. Gilbert Burns trains at Sanford Mixed Martial Arts in South Florida. The gym is affiliated with Sanford Health, a health system based out of South Dakota, but has been hit hard by the coronavirus outbreak. I just think it's a Florida thing, said Burns. By the way, Florida is insane. Yikes, I don't get why anyone would live in Florida. But Florida, you can't go a single day without some weird story happening in Florida. It's so bizarre. We're not safe anymore, according to Burns. He and his team drove to Florida from Las Vegas in a car provided by the UFC. They drove from Vegas to Las Vegas. What? When they drove from Florida to Las Vegas by car. By car. He said he currently is feeling good and is with his family. He intends to quarantine until he produces a negative test. Wow. This is strange. Florida is bizarre. For those of you who also do not know, this past 4th of July, in Florida, I think it's like either Orlando or Miami, but there was a beach in Florida. And it's a yearly thing, apparently, for this one guy. There's a dude who dresses up as the Grim Reaper, and he goes around and tells people, to not go to the beach. It's weird. This time, he goes to the beach. He's wearing the Grim Reaper outfit. You can't see his face. He's wearing the big hoodie. He's wearing a gigantic, he's holding this giant scythe, and he's pretty much kind of scaring people. And when I say scaring people, more so, he's slowly walking up to elderly people, and he's, pointing at them and telling them to go. But if you hear him talk, he's this really soft-spoken guy. It obviously sounds like a soft-spoken dude in his early to mid-20s. Just saying, hey, don't go to the beach, man. Coronavirus, you're going to bring death and stuff. And by the people in Florida, man, they do not care. They really don't. So, this Grim Reaper man in Florida, he's walking around the beach. He sees this one man over here, and this one old... You can look this up on YouTube. Go type of Florida Grim Reaper fights old man. Penguin Zero made a video about this. This old man confronts the Grim Reaper, and this old man starts spatting out random things, like the lizard people in England. This old man is the guy who would wear, a tinfoil on his head, and will say, they're coming after us. He's that kind of guy. Or he would say, the earth is flat. So, this guy confronts the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper, with his soft-spoken voice, is like, hey man, don't come close to me, sir. Don't come close to me. coronavirus, I don't want anyone to be infected. Did you know that the percentile chance, and it's just throwing out statistics onto the old man. The old man obviously wants to fight the Grim Reaper. And then the Grim Reaper says, hey, don't let me call the police. Don't let me call 911, sirs. And then another person comes in. He holds back the old man. It's one of the most surrealist things I've ever seen. And 2020 is continually being, like, insane. Also, there was another video that was recommended. It was like, a man fights an alligator. So you got this, like, 44-second clip of a dude antagonizing random alligators. Yeah, is that alligators or crocodiles? I think it's alligators. He's antagonizing random alligators. Because apparently alligators is a reoccurring issue that's happening in Florida. I can't believe that's a thing. And it's so weird. Florida is such a bizarre state. I cannot process the idea of alligators and people dressing up as the Grim Reaper hovering around the beach. It's bizarre. And so, Gilbert Burns, he lives in Florida. It's so weird. So Gilbert Burns talks about how I kind of agree with him here. In that if Jorge Masvidal were to be champion, if he were to become champion, the division will not be stable. Which is completely understandable right there. When Conor McGregor was a double champion for the lightweight division and the featherweight division, neither of those divisions were stable. Neither of them. People forget, Conor McGregor has never successfully defended a UFC belt. He's held 2 belts, and he was a champion that fought against Nate Diaz in non-title competition. It's such a weird thing that happened with Conor. And so with Jorge Masvidal, I agree with Kumaru Usman, with Gilbert Burns here, in that if Jorge Masvidal were to keep the belt, he would probably challenge a Conor McGregor. He'd probably challenge like Nate Diaz or a Nick Diaz or like GSP. Or Jorge Masvidal would go for a second title. It's very plausible what happened here because let's be perfectly honest here. Who is the biggest star? Gilbert Burns, Kumaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal. Now, I am not discrediting Gilbert Burns or Kumaru Usman. Usman's the champion. Gilbert Burns has had an amazing 2020 year. But who is the most marketable and who is the most popular? Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal connects to a very young audience that enjoys him. Like, I enjoy hearing Jorge Masvidal talk and just ramble on, more so than I do about Kumaru Usman. And Gilbert Burns, he's a great fighter, but like outside the octagon, he's not really much in. And so, if you're a traditionalist or a purist of mixed martial arts, of course, you want Kumaru Usman to win. Because there's no way if Kumaru Usman defeats Jorge Masvidal, what's going to happen is going to be Usman against Gilbert Burns, Usman against Kobe Covington. Like, that's the actual matchups there. If Jorge Masvidal wins, we might see Jorge Masvidal versus maybe, I don't know, GSP or Jorge Masvidal against Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal against Conor McGregor. Like, Jorge Masvidal brings in an audience. It's proven that he is able to go bring an audience. So I understand the perspective that Burns has on it, though. For me personally, I don't really care that much. Is because I just want to see UFC action. That's this. I want to see UFC action, and I want to see the best fighter win. It's like Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. Ideally, I would like to see Felicia Spencer defeat Amanda Nunes and bring stability to the women's featherweight division. But, in order to become champion, you gotta beat the champion. What matters the most is the best fighter wins. Jorge Masvidal, Usman, the best fighter is gonna be the champion. Not who you ideally like, not the person who should be the one who becomes champion. No, we're talking about who is the best fighter. And so Jorge Masvidal against Kumaru Usman, man, this is gonna be a big fight. I can guarantee you right now, because of Jorge Masvidal being slotted into the fight against Kumaru Usman, it's gonna add more buys. Now, I'm going to go buy the UFC pay-per-view no matter what. No matter what happens, I'm buying the pay-per-view. But because of Jorge Masvidal being implemented in there, I can say right now that people are more excited. I saw an ESPN interview between Brett Okamoto and Ariel Helwani and this other person, and they're talking about how all three of them were even more excited and about Jorge Masvidal being slotted in. they think, oh man, it's going to be much more exciting. And if you look at Twitter, there are people who are like, oh wow, Jorge Masvidal, oh my gosh. And if you look at UFC's Twitter, whoever's running UFC Twitter, they are more excited for the Jorge Masvidal matchup with Usman than they are about the Burns versus Usman thing. Because the second it was announced that Jorge Masvidal would be the person who would be replacing Burns, they just posted the quick 10-15 second clip of Jorge Masvidal throwing the flying knee on Ben Askren, which is one of the most watched videos of mixed martial arts at YouTube. So yeah, the guy's a big star. I'm excited about it. I'm sad for Gilbert Burns, and hopefully whoever wins this matchup here, Gilbert Burns should go and be the next one in line and have a proper title match. You're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast. Come back right after the short break here. See you soon.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. So let's go and cross our fingers, hopefully, that Jorge Masvidal and Kumaru Usman is going to happen. And the reason why I'm kind of sketchy about it is because Helwani Barakamura talked about this. And it's hard to predict what's going to happen. I would have never predicted it's going to be Jorge Masvidal against Kumaru Usman for the title just a week ago or 2 weeks ago. You couldn't predict that. Now we're going to have Masvidal against Kumaru Usman. And right now, it's... Daniel Cormier also talked about this, where he's saying, how hard or how difficult is it for fighters to go cut weights? There's no way. Considering the fact that steam rooms are not really available, and also some gyms are closed off, and you've got fighters distance themselves from their coaches. How are fighters able to go and properly, weight cut? And as a person who's done weight cutting, it is difficult, man. It is incredibly difficult, and if it wasn't for the steam room, I typically use steam room and baths and swimming pool. Those are exercises I use, or location or areas that I use in order to go cut weight myself. But without steam room, without the pool and stuff, and without your coaches being there, without a team that's guiding you out, how are you doing weight cutting? It's very difficult for me. So for Jorge Masvidal, as of today, coming in from a recent interview he had with Helwani at ESPN, he says that he's hovering around 190. He's hovering 190, 192. At 4th of July, he was 192. He is meant to go and cut 20 more pounds. 20 more pounds. And in the next, how many days is the fight from now? So at 4th of July, he was at 192. And at the time of this recording, it's right now July 6th. He's going to be competing at the July 11th show, which is, from that point on, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And over the course of 7 days, he has to go and cut 20 pounds. Insane. It's absolute insanity. I wouldn't be surprised if Jorge Masvidal comes into this fight looking so gassed and tired from training camp. Yeah, man, it's been very difficult. Jorge Masvidal says that he's able to do so. Kumaru Usman, definitely he can make weight. Gilbert Burns, definitely. But considering the fact that, it's such a last minute thing for these fighters to be able to cut weight and change their body to manipulate their body so fast in such a short amount of time, I'm kind of worried about it. I really am worried. Nothing upsets me more in the fight game other than catch weight fights. I think catch weight fights, to me, are the biggest waste of time ever. As a fight fan, that's what I believe. If I see fighter A is off by 2-3 pounds, and they're fighting somebody here, well, what do I get from watching this fight? Even if it's because it doesn't really mean anything. Even if a fighter were to win the fight, it wouldn't mean for the title. So if Jorge Masvidal were to go and defeat Kumaru Usman, then title was on the line. because it was a catchweight bout, so he doesn't get the belt. So Kumaru Usman still keeps, we get the matchup of Usman versus Jorge Masvidal, which is really nice and all, but I want to see these fights have heavy title implications or implications in the divisions or the rankings here. It definitely bothers me. There's a fighter in the women's strawweight division. I'm not sure. In the women's flyweight division. There's a woman in the flyweight division. I think her name is Jin Yan. And she's had 2 really good performances, but they're both catchweight performances. So if you look at her UFC record, she should be higher in the rankings here, but because she fought at catchweight, she's pretty much outside the top 15 in the rankings. So her 2 victories just didn't mean anything, and her opponents who lost to that, nothing happened to them also. Which meant that the entire ordeal was a complete waste of time. I like there to be results and consequences or stuff happening as a result from, X event happening here. So I really am praying that Jorge Masvidal is going to go make weight, because if he does end up not making weight and we have a catchweight fight, even as a fight fan, I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy the prospect of seeing Masvidal and Usman. I'm still gonna buy the pay-per-view here, but I'm gonna watch that fight and be like, this doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. For Ferguson versus Gaethje, it's that's one of the fact that the spontaneous aspect about the world of MMA is one reason why it's hard for me to place Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje as the best fight of the year. It's because it's so impromptu. It's so last minute. It's Usman was preparing for another fighter in Gilbert Burns who fights very similar to him. Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. You can't think of any 2 fighters in the top rankings of the welterweight division that fight any differently than those 2 guys. And right now, it's already happening here. We got Jorge Masvidal and Kumaru Usman. They're throwing jabs. We have Usman and talking about how Jorge Masvidal, he needs training camp to go fight for Ben Askren. He only has 1 week to prep up against Usman. Doesn't make that much sense right now. I'm gonna go look at the betting odds a lot later today here and see who's gonna go and be the favorite here. I'm gonna predict right now myself. This is my prediction. Kumaru Usman's gonna defeat Jorge Masvidal. And the reason why I say Kumaru Usman's gonna defeat Jorge Masvidal was the same logic I had when I chose Tony Ferguson defeating Justin Gaethje. Now obviously I was completely wrong there. Justin Gaethje smoked Tony Ferguson, and I'm taking the big L in that my prediction was wrong. But my prediction made all the sense in the world. It made logical sense that Tony Ferguson, who kept up at fight shape, was gonna be better prepped up in his match here, because he's more conditioned, versus Justin Gaethje, who had only 1 week's prep time here. And for Jorge Masvidal, not only does he have a week prep time to go and cut a whole lot of weight, he also has to go travel to another country, undergo some testing there, pass those COVID-19 tests, pass the weight cuts, and here's another thing that people forget about the fight. In Abu Dhabi, relative to what's actually here, the actual show is going to happen at 1 a.m. Me living here in the West Coast, the fight is going to start at 1 a.m. in the West Coast. I'm going to be up all night watching the fight because the time zone there in Abu Dhabi, over there, is a lot more different than here in the States. So they have to be mentally checked in for their time here. Timing is very weird, very different there. And if your body isn't prepped up, if your body isn't ready and you're kind of drowsy, you're kind of sleepy, and you're fighting against somebody like Usman, I think there's just so many hurdles that Jorge Masvidal has to go through, more so than Gaethje did in his prep time against Tony Ferguson. And also, here's the thing, Kumaru Usman is also a lot more dynamic of a fighter than Ferguson. While Ferguson is a great striker with a good jiu-jitsu game, he mostly is reliant on a striking game when going on the offensive, while Kumaru Usman can go either ground or on the stand-up here. Kumaru Usman, preferably in this matchup here, should be grappling with Jorge Masvidal. If he grapples with Jorge Masvidal, Usman wins. That's easy. It's a striker versus wrestling game here. I'm just worried that because of Kumaru Usman's performance against Colby Covington, I'm afraid his coach or himself will be like, yeah, I can strike now. I can handle myself against one of the very, very best. I have the belt. I am the very best at stand-up and in grappling. I'm afraid that Usman's going to be overconfident in his striking and his striking ability. He's going to be like, he's going to go in having a striking match against Jorge Masvidal. Things don't turn out well for him. Then again, I could be completely wrong here, Masvidal knocks out Kumaru Usman in the first 30 seconds. It can definitely happen here. But I'll go with the safe pick. I, myself, always prefer the safe betting choice over the wild card here. So I'm going to bet my money on Kumaru Usman defeating Jorge Masvidal. He's the much safer pick. There's a lot of hurdles going in towards Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal, if he were to lose against Kumaru Usman, has all the excuses in the world and all the reasons on why he wasn't meant to go defeat Kumaru Usman. He really does. So I'm picking on I'm safe bet for me, Kumaru Usman. But right now, there is coming in from MMA Junkie that there is a safe zone set up for UFC Fight Island events in Abu Dhabi. There are 4 events happening at Fight Island. There's going to be 4 UFC events happening within the span of just 2 weeks. A stretch of nearly 7 miles of Yas Island in Abu Dhabi has been cordoned off and set as a safe zone for the UFC's 4 events this month at Fight Island. This zone will be placed for the next several weeks, including Saturday's UFC 51 events, as well as 3 more events through July 26. So yeah, for 2 weeks, 4 events. The zone will only be accessible by UFC personnel, event staff, and Yas Island employees. According to a release, all event staff members has been quarantined in their hotel rooms since June 19 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. All have been tested during that period. A crew of 740 people put together the venue and safe zone area. Those crew members then left the zone, which was sanitized before the rest of the staff members and UFC personnel arrived. An indoor venue being billed as Flash Forum will hold the fights. Anyone entering the area will go through a mist tunnel. That will sanitize everyone, and according to the release, will kill 99% of surface bacteria. No fans will be in attendance, and masks are required for non-fighters. Over the past 2 weeks, we've been very busy building a safe and secure zone to bring UFC back to Abu Dhabi, and in turn, kickstart international sport and entertainment events again. This is being stated in by Ali Sabah, Executive Director of Tourism and Marketing for DCT Abu Dhabi. The area of the safe zone aims to ensure that we can provide a secure environment to host elite sports, but also protect our wider Abu Dhabi community. This event is important for us for many reasons, as it allows us to begin the process of bringing back sports and tourism to Abu Dhabi. It signals our readiness to once again host international events and provides us with a learning opportunity to improve and adapt, and efficiently prepare for the scheduled events ahead of us this year. After Saturday's UFC 51 event, 3 other events are set for Yas Island on July 15, July 18, July 25. In the span of 14 days, we are going to have 4 UFC events happening. Once again, I applaud UFC. It's like, my opinion on the UFC is very changed. It's either I applaud them or I'm really down on them. I applaud them when they do something really right, and I downplay them when they do something very, very wrong. And it's very easy to go against Dana White. He's like super antagonistic for the most part. But when he's really chill, he's very chill. So the UFC, they're following protocol. They were able to, this is the second time, they were able to avoid a disaster with Jacques Ronaldo Souza, with him being diagnosed with COVID. And now they're able to go and replace Gilbert Burns for Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns got diagnosed, and I feel sad for Gilbert Burns. But once again, the UFC, they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job in maintaining and managing this event. End of July, we have basketball coming up, for those of you who are unaware. So the basketball season is reopening up yet again, and there's rumors going on that there's going to be a second bubble. We're going to have 2 bubbles in 2 different cities for ex players and ex teams coming in. It's going to be very strange of what's happening with the NBA. I've been being told that the NBA are talking to Dana White, considering how they let their events go by. Things are getting kind of complicated here at the States, but you know what? Them doing it in Abu Dhabi, if the UFC are not breaking any rules, if they're complying with the right protocols, if they're doing everything legal, then they're doing fine for themselves. I know all people were criticizing Dana White, saying like, what if everything goes wrong? What if everything turns to a disaster? And so far, Dana White was able to turn everything positively. Like, it also happens with pro wrestling a lot. If you look at pro wrestling right now, how it currently is, they're at the very worst case scenario. UFC are able to go through their events, but then again, UFC, they have events sparingly compared to the WWE, to which they have events happening all week. So, for those of you who are unaware, the WWE are going through the WWE, which the UFC kind of uses WWE's. WWE was the example as to how UFC are able to go put shows up and make shows keep going on. I don't think in the WWE we're not able to go have shows happening at Florida, then there's no way, the UFC can have their events happen in Florida also. So right now in the WWE, things are getting a lot more hectic. There are reportedly more and more performers and athletes who are being diagnosed with COVID-19. And you know what? They're doing very bad. Unless the performers right now in the WWE, they're not being talked to. The people from the head ups from the WWE, they're not interacting or conveying any information or messages to the performers now. And now we have a lot of major talents and underutilized talents and talent that are going through training. A lot of them are being diagnosed and things. And here's the thing, and there's no social distancing at all. There's very little protocol happening. We got some tests happening for some athletes. We got some tests not happening for other athletes. We got athletes here who are being told one thing, being told another thing. Clearly out, the WWE is a complete mess right now. So while the WWE is a complete mess and the NBA are trying to go and rebuild their, get NBA basketball going on again, UFC, they're doing everything correct. That's one thing I'll agree with Dana White. They are doing everything correct in bringing back sports. Now, that they're just one sporting organization. If other organizations, even the WWE is a fake organization, even if other organizations can continue pushing through and have their events go on smoothly, with no disasters happening right now, which is what's happening right now currently with the WWE, then, I see a bright future where, UFC will continue to have stable shows happening here. And hopefully in the States things get a lot more clear and we'll have a lot more events happening in the Florida area or the UFC Apex facility building. So, let's have our fingers crossed that everything goes well for Fight Island and in the next month everything goes well back here in the States. So you're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast. Come back right after the short break here with some more MMA news. See you soon.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. Fight Island is coming up this Saturday, July 11. It's definitely going to be a very unique and interesting show. Then again, UFC has been pulling on very unique, interesting shows in the past couple of weeks. So I'm excited for it, though. Let's talk about the match cards here. And also, the betting odds routes. We have Amanda Ribas against Paige VanZant. To those of you who are unaware, Paige VanZant, this will be her last fight in her contract. It's expected that she will go be a free agent. And from there, she's going to go for some contract negotiations with potentially one championship with the UFC, with Bellator. We don't know. Paige VanZant for the past 2 years has been it's been going really hard for Paige VanZant, where she really is emphasizing and focusing on just clearing up her contract. She doesn't care about the title. She doesn't care about what's going in the rankings of the division. All she cares about is just finishing up her contract. She had an interview where she says, win or lose, it won't really affect her ability to make negotiations with her contract. And so for Amanda Ribas with Paige VanZant, I predict here Ribas defeating Paige VanZant. Amanda Ribas has to be one of the more underrated fighters here, and she should. But Amanda Ribas, she's 9-1 in MMA, 3-0 in the UFC. Meanwhile, Paige VanZant is 8-4 in MMA and 5-3 in the UFC. Amanda Ribas, her stock right now is going up. If you haven't checked out Amanda Ribas, I highly recommend you do right now. This is a complete offset here, without a doubt. According to the odds here, the odds coming in from today, from the Vegas odds, on July 6th, Amanda Ribas overwhelming favorites, minus 850, Van Zandt plus 525. And I agree. Amanda Ribas, there's no way Paige Van Zandt is going to defeat Ribas, especially considering that Paige Van Zandt has been out of the fight game for like over a year now, while Amanda Ribas has remained to be active, and Paige Van Zandt has been going through surgery. So, off injuries, off, ring rust, I go for Amanda Ribas winning. We got the next matchup here, Jessica Andrade versus Rose Namajunas. This is very interesting, really, here. So, Jessica Andrade, she's ranked number 2. She's ranked number 5, pound for pound for the best women's fighters, while Rose Namajunas is ranked number 4, but is ranked number 8 for best pound for pound fighters in the women's divisions here. Jessica Andrade being 20-7 in her MMA career, but being 11-5 in the UFC. Rose Namajunas 8-4 in MMA, 6-3 in the UFC. So if you guys don't remember the first fight, and I recommend you, if you haven't seen yet, go look up Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. You'll be so impressed by how good Rose Namajunas was in the first round. And then you're going to be disappointed on what happens in the second round when Jessica Andrade pretty much slams Rose Namajunas down to the ground. So, Andrade versus Rose Namajunas here. In the first fight, it was predicted that Jessica Andrade would defeat Rose Namajunas. That was a prediction. Because on paper, Jessica Andrade was better than Rose Namajunas in every single category. Every single category, Jessica Andrade was better at. She was a better striker. She was a better grappler. She was better at dirty boxing. She's better at fighting outside the pocket. She's really good in the clinch. But Rose Namajunas was able to outperform Jessica Andrade in every single facet of the fight game. She just made one mistake and she allowed herself to go get slammed because she was very greedy for a submission attempt. But Andrade was the favorite to go defeat Rose Namajunas. But now, with Rose Namajunas being gone from the fight game by over a year, and her going through this weird period, her having to go through her family members dying, her going through that weird phase where she really just didn't enjoy mixed martial arts anymore. She had to go through this weird psychological phase of her adulting and growing up because she was champion at 24 years old. Rose Namajunas was a champion at 24. She defeated an all-time great at Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and then she lost the belt out of her own mistake, and it just mentally wiped her out. It psychologically really damaged her. Dana White also says that he expects the best out of Rose Namajunas, but he doesn't know what the mental status is for Rose. That's why it's been so difficult for Rose to be booked for a fight. So, but Rose Namajunas here, with all the hurdles that's been thrown to her in the past year, she's coming in as the favorite at minus 210 against Jessica Andrade, who's coming in at plus 170 here. My guess is that a lot of the people who are making the bets here, they saw Namajunas and Jessica Andrade, and all came to the agreement that Rose Namajunas, she made a mistake. That she was supposed to defeat Jessica Andrade. If you saw her performance in the first round, she was objectively the better all-around fighter than Andrade. It just she allowed herself to go be slammed, and she placed herself in a bad situation there. But if she didn't do that to herself, if she didn't place herself in a bad situation, Rose should have defeated Jessica Andrade. And also, if you look at Jessica Andrade's performance against Weili Zhang, and it wasn't all that good, really. So, I'm personally buying in for Rose Namajunas to win. I won't be surprised if Jessica Andrade ends up defeating against Rose, considering the fact we don't know what the real mental status is for Namajunas. Namajunas says she feels fine from recent interviews she had with El Hawani, but, we don't know here. I predict Namajunas. The Vegas odds, they bet Namajunas also winning the fight. Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. This fight's going to be great. It is. This right here might be a fight of the night, fight of the year candidate here. So, Peter Yan is 14-1 in his MMA career, 6-0 in the UFC. Jose Aldo is 28-6 in his MMA career, and 10-5 in the UFC. So, in the past 5 fights, here's interesting. Peter Yan is 5-0 in his past 5 fights. Meanwhile, Jose Aldo is 2-3 in his past 5 fights. His fighting is coming in at the bantamweight division here. Peter Yan is number 3, but somehow Jose Aldo is number 5 at featherweight. Jose Aldo's ranked number 5 at featherweight, but he's fighting at bantamweight. It's so bizarre. That's how it is. The betting odds here from Vegas saying that Peter Yan is going to win this fight with a minus 250 advantage, while Jose Aldo's coming in at plus 195. I agree with that sentiment here. Peter Yan is the favorite to go defeated against Jose Aldo here, and I think Peter Yan, he's going to have a field day against Jose Aldo. He's going to defeat him by decision. That's my prediction. I say 3 rounds of decision. Jose Aldo gets nullified from his offense gets nullified by him, and that's what I expect. This is a really fun one here. Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. Volkanovski, 21-1 in his MMA career, 8-0 in the UFC. Max Holloway is 21-5 in the MMA, but he's 17-5 in the UFC. And when we look at the past 5 bouts here, Volkanovski is 5-0, Holloway is 3-2. This will be competed at the featherweight division. Volkanovski is number 1, ranked number 9, pound for pound rankings here, while Max Holloway, he's ranked number 12, pound for pound rankings. So Holloway, being the former champion, he's getting his title rematch here against Volkanovski. Based on the last performance, based on the last fight, I gotta go with Volkanovski. I know it's recency bias here when looking at the fighter, but you have to look at their most recent fight here. And I see Volkanovski wins this. And Volkanovski is the favorite here for a reason. And I go for Volkanovski. I don't think Holloway will outstrike or outperform against somebody as game as Volkanovski. As much as I love Holloway, and here's the weird part, Volkanovski came into his fight as the underdog against Holloway here. So, who knows? Holloway might have a comeback victory here against Volkanovski, but right now, I just don't see it happening. And now we have Kumaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. You know what my prediction is. I predict Kumaru Usman defeating Jorge Masvidal. So, Kumaru Usman is 16-1 in his MMA career, 11-0 undefeated in his UFC career. Jorge Masvidal is 35-13 in his MMA career, 12-6 in the UFC. When we talk about the past 5 bouts here, we see Usman coming in at 5-0, Jorge Masvidal coming in at 3-2, but Jorge Masvidal has had a really good stretch of wins coming up his way. Kumaru Usman is ranked number 1, number 8 pound for pound in the rankings, while Jorge Masvidal is ranked number 3 in the division. The betting odds as of July 6th. Kumaru Usman is the favorite here at minus 280, Masvidal plus 220 here, and I am in agreement. Who's the bigger star, Usman or Masvidal? Masvidal is the bigger star. Who's the better fighter? Who's the better all-around fighter? I'm going to be honest. Objectively, who is the better mixed martial arts fighter? Kumaru Usman. Kumaru Usman can do everything. Although he lacks knockout power, he can do almost everything in the octagon here. Compared to Jorge Masvidal, who's pretty much a one-dimensional fighter here. Yes, he has good takedown defense, but, compared to someone like Kumaru Usman is he's a tough hombre. If this was Kumaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns, this would be close. This would be like minus 140, plus 140 for Usman and Gilbert Burns. That's how close those two fighters are. I would you could say that you can give a slight edge as who's the better fighter for Gilbert Burns. You could actually make that argument there. One would also say that Jorge Masvidal or Gilbert Burns. Kumaru Usman is going to have an easier fight fighting Jorge Masvidal. I'm being honest with you. Because you know what to expect from Masvidal. You don't know what to expect from Gilbert Burns. But also, at the same time, Jorge Masvidal, he came into his fight against Ben Askren as the underdog. When I was talking with my friends about that fight of Usman versus Ben Askren, I so did not predict Masvidal winning that fight. I placed all my money on Ben Askren. I genuinely believe that Ben Askren would go take down Jorge Masvidal and just work him. But no, it didn't happen. Instead of that, we saw the flying knee, and Masvidal became a superstar. So even though Usman is the better grappler, he should grapple with Jorge Masvidal, and he's good enough in his striking game to go defend himself. If Usman makes one mistake, Masvidal wins this. Who should win this fight? Usman. Who will probably win the fight? Usman. Who will win the fights? I don't know. It's that close, and I'm excited about it. So once again, we got UFC 251 happening in July 11 at Fight Island, and I'm excited for it. It's gonna be starting at 1 a.m. if you live in the West Coast. Go check up on when the fight will air for you guys, depending on where you live in the States or internationally. Check up on it. Fight Island coming up. Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Who is the true BMF champion? Even the same for the BMF title. I'm excited for it though, and hopefully you're excited for it. Alright, as I am speaking right now, UFC, their main Twitter, they posted up images of Fight Island, and it's so bizarre and interesting. Alright, so they posted here, welcome to hashtag Fight Island. And then they showed this beautiful outdoors octagon that's on the beach. You got like tropical trees. It's right next to the beach. You got a sunset going down. It's such a movie. Honestly, it's a great looking image. Go type up UFC Twitter, Fight Ireland, and you see this like tropical island here. Looks absolutely beautiful. Like in the corners of the octagons, you see this like big tree over. Like these like beautiful looking trees. There's a sunset going down. And I'm thinking about this. Okay, so let's say a lot of these fights take like 5 or 3 rounds, alright then? So let's say all these fights end by decision. When we get to Kumaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal, and it's nighttime, like, are they gonna fight at night? It's ridiculous. Are they gonna be fighting out in the sun? Because I'm looking at the image right now. This is from the official UFC Twitter. They're literally fighting on a beach. On a tropical island beach. But here's the weird part about it. It's all just promotion. Like, they set up this like beautiful octagon on the beach that's meant primarily to be used for training. Like, it's just there to simulate like people training. They're gonna use this like weird thing that you see off like a pamphlet. It seems like if you guys haven't seen this, like have you guys ever seen like pamphlets to Puerto Rico? It's insane. Or pamphlets to Spain. It's like, look at the beautiful beaches here at Puerto Rico, and they show all these like beautiful scenery here. You got these like you got the trees there. You got like beautiful babes with their surfboards. You got guys with no shirts there with sunglasses, running around the beach, and it's all like beautiful and attractive. But if you've actually been to Puerto Rico is a very... If you've been to the unsafe parts of Puerto Rico, man, no, Puerto Rico is not a beautiful place. It really isn't. It can look beautiful, but that's not really how it is. But UFC, they're promoting this beach outdoor octagon that the fighters are not actually going to fight in, because the truth is they're going to be fighting in an indoor venue. They're going to fight at this like small indoor venue. It's similar to the Apex facility building. I'm pretty sure they're going to change the octagon size, because the octagon size for the Apex facility building is a lot more smaller. It looks a lot more smaller. They just replicated the UFC Apex facility building, like of how you see it on the screen, to the Abu Dhabi show here. So even though it's like Fight Island, these people are going to go to this island, and there's an octagon that's on the beach, right next to like people surfing, and you got like coconut trees all around there, and there's sand. But that's not the truth. It's not the truth. You're just seeing this beautiful octagon on the beach that says Fight Island. But then, in the actual like Apex facility looking building, the one they're actually going to use for the Abu Dhabi show, it is the regular UFC logo. It's like the outdoor octagon has a beautiful design, looks magnificent, looks beautiful. You want to buy it. But in reality, they're going to fight indoors in this really drab, very gray area. It's so funny. Someone put down on Twitter that like, why are you posting up these beautiful images of an octagon that no one's actually going to fight in? Because you're just going to train in there. And even then, why do you want to train in that weird octagon? It's so bizarre. It really is. And so, you're listening to the GSMC MMA podcast. Come back after the short break here. This stuff right here is incredibly cringy. Look up UFC's Twitter. You're going to see a whole lot of cringe and a lot of people tweeting out how cringy this whole Fight Island stuff is. And I'll discuss cringe with you after the short break here. See you soon.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And we are back. And so, for those of you who are unaware here, I always like to end all my podcasts with something weird or silly or something very trivial or fun. And I found something incredibly cringy. There's a lot of cringy aspects about the fight game. That's one of the things you like about mixed martial arts, like compared to WWE, in the fact that you have all these characters that are naturally weird and strange, bizarre characters from like strange backgrounds. Me being a person who's lived in Southern California for most of my life, when I feel is weird is very different from what everyone else feels weird. I've been to other states where people think that people from Southern California are complete psychopaths and that what we do makes zero logical sense and that we're walking cartoon characters. And I agree with that. But if you haven't yet, I want each and every one of you right now, if you, I'll be honest with you, even if you don't like basketball at all, I want each and every single person listening to this podcast to go on YouTube, type up Khabib plays Dagestani basketball. And you're gonna laugh your butt off. Alright then. So, I'm pretty sure people who are listening to this right now, you have a good grasp on how basketball works, right? You grab the ball, you dribble it, you put the ball inside the net or in the hoop. Alright then. Now, for Dagestani basketball. Oh my goodness, this has to be either the most insane or the most fun version of basketball I've ever seen in my entire life. I legitimately this is in the same realm as that weird trampoline basketball thing that was a big craze during the mid 2000s. Remember, if you guys remember that, I think it's called blitz ball or slam ball, where it was normal basketball, but instead of dribbling, you can dribble, you're jumping off trampolines, and you can do backflips and somersaults and stuff, and you can go dunk at it, and you get extra points for doing style moves. And then everyone's wearing armor. On defense, you can literally, shove people onto the ground, clothesline people. If there's a dude going for a dunk, you can jump on another trampoline and just clothesline them 20 feet in the air. It's absolute insanity if you haven't checked up Slam Ball. But now, I want you to check up Khabib Dagestani basketball. Because in Dagestani basketball, not only is there dribbling, but apparently everybody holds the ball as if they're a football player, and you can grapple and you can fight the other player, and the game doesn't end. It's absolute insanity. It is. Because there was okay, first of all, everyone in this video, especially Khabib, has the worst basketball form shot ever. As a person who played basketball growing up, I can safely tell you right now, you don't just throw your... Okay, they play I've seen 6-year-old kids who have better form in their basketball shots than these grown men in their 20s and 30s here. It's insane. There was a moment where Khabib, he grabbed the rebound. He was holding the ball as if it's a football. He runs outside the play zone, like he's out of bounds. And then with one hand, chucks it up in the air. And then he whiffs it. He barely, the ball hits the backboard, falls down, and then you can look at Khabib's face. He looks so disappointed, oh my gosh, how could that not work? But not just him, everyone does this. Everyone, I don't know. I feel like if they were to watch just normal basketball, their minds would explode. If someone were to show Dagestani basketball to any player who actively plays or was a former pro basketball player, their heads would explode. There was a single moment in this video that happened to which, it's hard for me to explain this. So a guy has the ball, and then he does an overhead pass to his friend, to his teammate. I think it's 5-on-5. I don't know. There's a lot of people on the court. I think it's 5-on-5 or 6-on-6. And so Khabib just randomly, he just shoots in for a takedown on an opposing player. He shoots in for a takedown, and it'll be one thing if it'll be like Rocket League, where you just take out the other opponents after, and then you just go back to the game and start playing. No. He shoots in for a takedown, and then afterwards goes for a double. He goes for a double leg. Isn't able to go for a double leg. His opponent sprawls on him. Then Khabib goes for a fireman's carry flip over slam onto his opponent. Then works his way to the back position and does a rear naked choke on the basketball courts. And nobody bats an eye on this. It's as Khabib is making his way, grappling with his opponent, going for a rear naked choke, in the background, you can see his opponents, or his teammates, playing basketball, doing, throwing overhead passes, throwing out these really bad chest passes. No, there was one guy, this like one very short guy, who threw this like amazing like bounce pass. Like, oh, he was one of the best bounce passes I've seen. Like, it's really good. Like, basketball pro level worthy here. He threw this like perfect bounce pass to Khabib. Khabib then went for a really good looking layup. Yeah, they went off the backboard inside the hoop. Look great. In this 7-minute video, there was one instance of actual real basketball that happened. And then after Khabib does a good job with his like nice looking layup, after a beautiful looking bounce pass, you know what? Double leg takedown, fireman's carry slam, work your way to the back mount position, rear naked choke. Alright then, he does the rear naked choke, the guy taps out, then the camera just cuts to the Khabib holding a ball, and he just throws the ball half courts, and no one bats an eye on this. It's just the most absolute insane game of basketball I have ever seen in my life. And now I want this to be a real sport in America. I am not joking. This seems so fun. Okay, no. This seems so fun yet dangerous. It's really funny because Khabib early on in the video is like, okay guys, let's go play. All that matters is that you're safe. And then and then you see people like diving, you see people doing clotheslines. There was not a single second in this video to which, like, if there was like a normal referee, they would call a foul everywhere. It's absolute insanity. If you guys have not seen this video, type it up. Khabib plays Dagestani basketball. And there's one moment in this game where Khabib is like, you know what? We should play harder. He's like, we should play harder, just go all the way, because I think they were losing. Like, they were losing, they scored 0 points at one of the games. And then after he went for the double leg takedown and fireman's carry, he was like, okay, we lost the first 2 games, but this 3rd game we're gonna win. Oh man, Khabib's a treasure, dude. He is an absolute treasure. And I love it. I really do love it. So since we're talking about, you know, like cringe MMA here, even though this really isn't MMA, we just have, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of like 5 MMA athletes who are just told, I mean it's like 5 and 5, like you got 10 MMA athletes who are told the main goal is to put the ball through the hoop. Alright then? And there's like no fouls, you can do anything, because multiple times in the videos here, like, instead of a screen, if you guys don't know what a screen is that a person would, like, put their body in the way of the ball handler, and they would go block the other opponent from chasing in. It's meant to help the ball handler be able to have, like, some space, and you can work a play off that. Instead of a simple screen happening, there were dudes shooting for takedowns, dudes hitting clotheslines, dudes bum tackling as if they're a homeless person. If you guys have ever seen, like an image of, like, a homeless dude who gets, like, really angry and just, like, you know, like pounces on a person. That happens here. It happens. And so, it's absolutely bizarre. But really enough, though, this is not the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in MMA. I forgot the exact name of the video about this, but you can probably Google search this. Type up, like, mixed martial arts nights. Just do it right now. Like, Google search or YouTube MMA nights. So what this is, it's mixed martial arts, but you can use shields, you can use swords, you can use maces, and you're decked out in full medieval armor gear. Imagine mixed martial arts with shields, swords, and medieval armor. Absolute insanity. It's absolute insanity. And I absolutely love it. It's, oh man. It's just, I don't know how to process that. How can you imagine wrestling somebody or playing any sport? Can you imagine if you're playing football, basketball, soccer, and you're just given a sword and a shield and medieval, like, there's like 200 pounds of like medieval European armor that like Templars use from the Assassin's Creed video game. It's just absolute insanity what that is. If you're interested in it, if you're interested in seeing knights do MMA training, MMA fighting with shield and sword, type it up. I mentally cannot process that. I really can't. It's weird. So now this video, it's recommending. What's recommending? So it's recommending me other things right now. It's recommending other like silly basketball stuff here. And now there's like this weird like training that Khabib does, where he does a 2-on-1 game of basketball. He does a 2-on-1 game of mixed martial arts. And then you're seeing the professor. Oh man, can you imagine that? Can you imagine like the professor, or I think it is Killbone? Yeah, the professor of Killbone. Like, who are these like really, really good street baller players? And then they go play Dagestani basketball, and they're doing these like cool looking moves, behind the back, spider dribbles, doing all these cool looking like magical stuff that you think your eyes are deceiving you when they play basketball. If you haven't checked it out yet, type up Bone Collector. Type up Bone Collector and the Professor for basketball, and you see how impressive they are. Now, imagine them playing basketball, playing against Khabib and his MMA buddies. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So those are two aspects of cringe that I enjoy. Here's the thing about So when I'm talking about cringy stuff about MMA, I found a random forum about this, where someone says like, you know what, mixed martial arts is very similar to WWE. And I said, how is it similar? Well, they're similar in the sense that it's full of wacky, bizarre characters who have like the most weirdest of tastes. Because in WWE, it's like full of like wacky, weird characters, especially outside the wrestling ring here. You got these like wacky, bizarre characters in these weird, and there's like strange narratives that either are like laughably funny, or just like cringy, or like very similar and dark. Some is very heartwarming. I was reminded just yesterday about somebody did a compilation on this about TJ Dillashaw. Somebody called it, I think it's called TJ Dillashaw like juice head moments, where like TJ Dillashaw, who's like a very soft spoken guy, speaks very eloquently. Whenever he was asked a question about like steroids, PEDs, or illegal substance being used, he looks so, I don't know, his eyes. Something's off about his eyes. It's like, hey, TJ Dillashaw, what's your opinion on steroid use in MMA? And then TJ Dillashaw starts stuttering. His eyes open up all crazy. He looks jazzed. It's like somebody gave him like a pot brownie, and now like he's just imagining clowns looking at him. Or there's like a scary man with his like hand like by his shoulder. So it's such a... I have never seen a guy with such a bad poker face than TJ Dillashaw. It's so good because in the interview where he had that led up to like him talking about steroids, it was TJ Dillashaw speaking like, you know what, I'm gonna defeat Henry Cejudo, I'll do my best, and I think I'm the best, I am one of the greatest of all time, I'm gonna take him down, I can beat him to striking, you know what, I can beat him, I really can. And then the girl asks him, what do you think about steroids? Then TJ Dillashaw, he looks at the camera, he like breathes heavily, you can tell he's choking by him, he's like, steroids? What? No, steroids. They're bad. Don't use steroids, kids. Yeah, they're awful. I don't respect it. It's a good thing that steroids are banned. I don't allow it. It's so bad. It is so awful how TJ Dillashaw presents himself. Go on YouTube, type up TJ Dillashaw juice head moments, and you see him and his eyes and his face. He looks very panicked. He looks very stoked. He looks very jazzed. TJ Dillashaw's face reminds me of when, like if a kid were to steal some other kid's backpack, and then the school principal comes in, and he asks the kid, hey, did you steal that kid's backpack over there? And then TJ Dillashaw would be like, what? No, what? I didn't do it. No. And then it's so obvious that the kid is lying off his butt. And that's how it feels about TJ Dillashaw. When you look at his like facial reactions, it's so hilarious and it's so cringy. And I recommend to you to watch it. I recommend you look up TJ Dillashaw Juicehead. I recommend you look up MMA Nights. And then I recommend you to look up Khabib and Dagestani basketball. I promise, you'll be laughing your butt off and smiling. I guarantee you that. And so that brings us to a close for today's episode. You guys have been a great audience, and all I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC MMA podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you, please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.